I made an uncontroversial statement on Twitter once, or at least I thought it was uncontroversial, but atheists seem intent on baby appropriation, so here we go. So I seem to have accidentally split apart the atheist community a bit ago by saying something on the Twitters that I thought was pretty straightforward and reasonable, which is that babies are not atheists, and I think that people should stop arguing that. It's a bad meme. And the response that I got was fairly interesting, I guess indicative of the nature of Twitter more than anything else. But despite the overwhelming support for the sentiment, I got a lot of fairly adamant detractors insisting that yes, babies are in fact atheists. Now, I largely know where this meme originates. Back in the days of early atheist YouTube, this concept was popularized by a user named Bionic Dance, who adamantly fought for and honestly still fights for this concept. And then other people started picking it up. But she covers enough points on this that I could make this entire video as a response to her, but I'm generally more interested in the message than the messenger. But her argument is a good place to start, given that she's largely the originator of this. So credit where credit is due. She's significantly influenced the atheist community with this. So her position essentially boils down to babies fit the definition of atheist, given that they lack a belief in God. That's it. Super simple. And from the perspective of the definition that she's using and whether or not babies fit that definition, she's right. But that doesn't matter. And here's why. So we use words to communicate ideas, and sometimes we sum up an idea in a single word so that we can easily communicate that idea. Atheism is one such word that refers to a handful of concepts. And here's the crux of the issue. There's multiple definitions of atheism. And the question is whether or not it is meaningful or useful to use the word atheist in such a way that captures babies within what it identifies. A lot of people seem to see the definition of atheism as being a lack of belief in God or gods. We hear this a lot. I don't believe that God does not exist. I simply lack a belief. This is usually done to avoid claim making. It shifts the focus of the conversation onto the person who is making the God claim. And that's the reason why this phrase really exists. And this creates some interesting conversation dynamics, specifically when the atheist is the aggressor in the conversation. But that aside for a minute, using this definition simply winds up in some interesting consequences that should be really easy to clear up. But some atheists want to double down on the simplicity of this definition, making an atheist anything that can be described through this version of the word atheism, meaning anyone and anything that lacks a belief in God, which would extend to babies, cats, and even potted plants. I've even seen literal tables identified as atheists in the past. This, it's not a bug, it's a feature approach is really strange. It seems to appeal to this idea that the dictionary is prescriptive rather than descriptive. A note on dictionaries, real quick, guys. They are not informing us of how words are to be used. Rather, they track how we use them. So if we suddenly started using the word atheist to mean someone who believes in gods, the dictionary would follow suit and label the word that way, although it might note that historically it was used to describe something else. So the initial problem with using the word atheist to describe anyone and anything that lacks a belief in God is that's not how anyone really uses the damn word. I'm not sitting on my atheist, typing on my atheist to use my atheist to write a script to my atheist in order to upload it onto an atheist. And if someone asks me how many atheists are in my home, I'm not going to resort to counting inanimate objects, pets, and plant life. I'm going to be counting people, which leads us to the first clarifying point that's often found in definitions, that an atheist is a person who disbelieves or lacks a belief in God or gods. Now that we've clarified that atheists are people, this definition, which is arguably more common anyway, eliminates the idea that my coffee table, coffee mug, and actual coffee are all atheists. They're not. They are not, lacking a God belief as they might, people. So, and again, the definition exists because of usage. It is not prescriptive. And yet still atheists will proclaim from the Holy Dictionary by way of sola dictora that this dictates, therefore, that babies are atheists because babies fit the prescriptions. They are people and they lack a belief in God. Sure. But here's another wrench in the conversation. In addition to not being prescriptive, dictionaries are also not comprehensive. And often dictionaries are written in ways that are intentionally broad. It's a reference point for tracking usage. It's not a prescriptive text, and even then, it's not one that's meant to be taken into the technicalities word for word. Often, there are subtleties of language that the dictionary just isn't capturing, and it won't until you get into the nitty-gritty of usage, because the English language is an abomination, built out of clashing cultures and kidnapping concepts from other languages in the night. So as an example, check out this definition of car. It's a road vehicle, typically with four wheels, powered by an internal combustion engine that is able to carry a small number of people. And you may like that definition, but then, refer to someone in car culture's truck as a car and you'll get corrected. It doesn't matter if it fits the definition, it's a damn truck. Don't call it a car. But you have car insurance on it. I don't care, it's a truck. Don't do it. Don't bring up SUVs. Just walk away slowly and leave in one piece. And beyond that, according to this definition, Tesla doesn't make cars. So this leads to when someone says that babies are technically atheists, or that babies are atheists according to the actual definition. Well, here's the problem. There's no technically and there's no actual definition. There's what people mean when they say it. So, and the dictionary definition is meant to track colloquial usage of atheist and not be some technical classification. If you want to get into technical classifications, consult philosophers and academic discussion on the topic, where even then, babies are not considered atheists. They're considered innocents, which is not atheist, not agnostic, nor theist. Now, why do they do this? First, they're using a definition of atheism that is a little bit more refined or narrow than what's colloquially used. And though the colloquial definition does include disbelief, the definition commonly used in philosophy narrows it down a bit and eliminates this lack of part, removing it from being this umbrella term that covers a whole bunch of other ideas like agnosticism or apatheism or what have you. They're talking about something that's really specific and has a positive position on a proposition, namely that, the existence of God or gods, depending on the context. But your general layman isn't using PhD level philosophy terms. We're just using the colloquial definition, damn it. To hell with this philosophy bullshit. I'm not letting academia take over language by applying some prescriptive basis to my identity and erasing terminology that I've been using for years. When I say it, I just mean that I lack a belief. I'm not making any claims. Please don't ask questions. I don't want to be held to anything. That's what I do to theists. And fine. People have the right to describe themselves how they want. If lack of a belief fits the bill and is accurate to your position, and that's how you want to describe yourself, then you can use the dictionary to support your personal identity and say, hey, I'm using the word in a way that is consistent with common usage. What's weird is applying it to babies. This is for a few reasons. One reason is that babies cannot self-identify. You're just impressing this social label onto them. And it is a social label. It's meant to describe a certain perspective. Packaged in that is the ability for one to say, yes, I, in fact, am described this way. And it requires two things: cognition sufficient to examine the question, and exposure to the subject matter. And babies don't have either one of these. And nobody really means babies when they say atheists. If someone tells you that your cousin just turned 3 months old, and you respond with, well, he must still be an atheist then, people are going to be completely justified when they say to you, hey, why don't you let him figure it out? For bonus points, this applies to adults that haven't been exposed to the issue. And they may have the cognition level, but they haven't really grappled with the subject and they don't identify as atheists. So say we find some new civilization of people out there that don't have a God belief, but it's only because no one has really exposed the concept to them and it didn't occur to them. They're still not atheists, really. They haven't been exposed to the subject. And once you expose them to the subject and they come to whatever conclusion, there's a chance that they may be atheists. But it's entirely possible that once you expose them the concept, they'll go, oh, that's what we've been missing out on. Yeah, we're totally theists now. The last observation that I'll make here is that the motivation behind trying to apply this technically to babies rings of latent Christianity. It kind of introduces the concept of what I call Protestant atheism, which is atheism that is evangelical, atheists that seem intent on spreading the good word of atheism by way of the Holy Dictionary to babies that cannot consent to being included in this semantic activism of labeling them. There's no reason to override the lack of any identity held by babies to give them this label of atheist, unless you're trying to mirror what Christians do when they baptize babies and call them Christians. It's just not justifiable to do it. It's not justifiable when they do it, so it's not justifiable when you do it. And ultimately, this is the reason why I say it's a bad meme. So stop it. So hopefully we dealt with that. I'm Ocean Keltoy, and I want to know what you guys think about this. Do you agree with my assessment that atheists should just quit with this babies are atheists thing? Or do you think I'm totally off base? Let me know, and I'll take your criticism like a champ. I'm certain that the comment section to this video will be entirely mature and constructive. But with that, hail to my patrons for making this content possible. Monetization on YouTube has been a bit of a tumultuous adventure. It's a lot of my videos get that yellow dollar sign, so particularly if it's something I'm passionate about. So the fact that the patrons are willing to throw a couple bucks and make this channel viable is really awesome. So thanks for everyone for watching and liking and leaving a comment. And remember to find a way or make one.